Welcome to the Time for English podcast, Episode 3. I'm your host, Soda Peach. Today's episode is a special request from one of our listeners for me to talk about some of the most commonly asked questions during an English job interview. So, in this episode, I'm going to give you some tips and advice on how to prepare for your English job interview, some do's and don'ts, as well as how to answer the top 10 job interview questions so that you feel more confident and prepared for your next job interview. If you've thought about improving your English interview skills, then this episode is for you. But before we get started though, if this is your first time here, don't forget to click that red subscribe button, give me a thumbs up, and share it with your friends if you think this podcast helps you learn just a little bit more English. So, first things first. Let's start with what you should do before the interview. Before you even start thinking about the job interview, my advice is to start with researching the company. Learn about the company's history, its mission, and its values. Visit their website and read about their latest news and projects. For example, if you are interviewing for a hotel reservation staff position at Marriott Hotel, you should know something about their loyalty program, different hotel brands, and customer service standards. And if you are interviewing for a barista or a server's job at Starbucks, you should know about their coffee blends, seasonal drinks, and commitment to sustainability. And if you are interviewing at Google, you should know about their products like Google Search, YouTube, and Google Cloud, and so forth. Now, assuming you are invited to the interview, what should you do before the interview? My advice here is to prepare your documents ahead of time. Print multiple copies of your resume and any other documents you might need. Bring a portfolio with your work samples if you're in a creative field. The second thing you should do before the interview is to choose your outfit. Make sure you wear professional and appropriate clothes for the interview. For example, a suit or a neat dress is usually a good choice. Okay, but what about the day of the interview and during the interview? What should you do? Well, there are a few things you should keep in mind. First of all, be on time. Arrive at least 15 to 20 minutes early. Let's say your interview is at 10 o'clock, you should try to get there by 9:40. Secondly, during the interview, try to make a good first impression. Smile, make eye contact, and offer a firm handshake. For example, greet the interviewer with, "Hello, it's nice to meet you." And the next thing you should do is to listen carefully. Pay close attention to the questions and take a moment to think before you answer. For example, if you don't understand a question, politely ask, "Could you please repeat the question?" Finally, try to answer clearly and confidently. Speak clearly and at a moderate pace. Be honest and positive. For example, use simple and direct language to express your thoughts. After the interview, thank the interviewer. Thank them for their time and the opportunity for the interview. For example, "Thank you for taking the time to interview me today." Most people forget this last step, which is to follow up. Do not forget to send a thank you email within 24 hours after the interview. For example, you could say something like, "Dear Mr. Smith, thank you for meeting with me today. I enjoyed learning more about the position and your team." Why should you do a follow-up? Well, sending a follow-up email is important for many reasons, which I'm not going to get into great detail in this episode. But what I can tell you is that it shows gratitude. It expresses your appreciation for the opportunity to interview. A simple thank you can leave a positive impression on the interviewer. A follow-up email within 24 hours after the interview can significantly enhance your candidacy by showing gratitude, reinforcing interest, and demonstrating professionalism. Now that you know what to do before, during, and after the interview, let's get into the 10 commonly asked interview questions. Let's go over some of the most common questions that you'll be asked if you go for a job interview in English. So one of the first questions that you'll be asked in an English job interview is the question, "Tell me about yourself," or "How would you describe yourself?" Or another version of it would be, "Could you tell us a little bit about yourself?" Remember, this is a very open question. It's usually the first question in a job interview, and you can answer it in a number of ways. You can talk about yourself as a person, or you can talk about your interests. So you could say, "I'm a very outgoing person, and I love working with others." You could say something like, "I've always loved technology, and I can't wait to have a job where I can work more closely with technology." You could also say something like, "I've always loved teaching other people new things." That's what I would say if I was in an interview and if someone asks me that questions. So, the first question you're going to get asked is going to be a question about you. It's kind of a broad, open question about who you are as a person. If you're being interviewed for a position in a digital marketing department, here is how I would answer that question. I am a recent graduate from SCH University with a degree in marketing. I have experience working as an intern at ABC Company where I helped with social media campaigns. I am very passionate about digital marketing and I'm excited about this opportunity. So, you see why this is a good answer. It's a good answer because it is brief, it focuses on relevant experience, and it shows your enthusiasm for the job. The second question that you'll be asked in a job interview might have to do with why you want the job. So the interviewer may ask questions like, "Why do you want to work for us?" Or, "Why do you want to work here?" Or, "Why are you applying for this job?" Remember, one of the best ways to answer this is to know something about the company and to say something like, "I've always admired the work that you do in the community," or the work that you do for your customers. You may also want to talk about something that the company did recently that impressed you. So you really want to know something about the company so you can connect your strengths and your abilities with what they do. So you could say something like this: "I've always loved working with people, and I know that your company specializes in helping people. I would love to work with you so that I can use my talents to help your company do a better job." You could also say something like this: "I admire your company's commitment to innovation and customer service. I am excited about the opportunity to contribute to your team and help achieve your goals." So you see, this answer shows that you have researched the company and are genuinely interested in being a part of their team. The third question that you'll be asked in a job interview is, "Why should we hire you?" Remember, this would be a time to talk about the things that make you a good employee. You should say something like, "I am always on time." "I am an efficient and organized person." You should say something like, "I like solving problems," or "I like getting things done on time." Be straightforward and say whatever makes you a good employee, whatever skills and talents you have. This is the question where you should answer those. Usually, when I answer this kind of question, I say things like, "I love learning new things," just like what I'm doing right now, is to create a podcast on how to help you prepare for your next job interview. However, you should never say something that's not really you. Just try to be honest. That's the name of the game here when you answer this kind of question. Remember, honesty goes a long, long way. So, if you like solving problems and are always on time for work, just say, "I love solving problems, I'm always on time, and I'm always organized." Let's recap. When the interviewer asks you, "Why should we hire you?" my advice to you is to say something like this: "You should hire me because I have the skills and experience that match this position. I love solving problems. I like getting things done on time, and I am an efficient and organized person. I am hardworking, dedicated, and eager to contribute to your team. So you see, this is a good answer because it shows the interviewer that you are confident and you highlight your qualifications. The fourth question you might be asked in a job interview is, where do you see yourself in 5 years from now? Here is where the interviewer wants to know what some of your long-term plans or goals are. Again, this would be a good time to be honest with the interviewer. And if you do not want to work your way up in the company, then you should just say so. You should say something like, if I get this position I'm applying for, I could see myself still doing that in 5 years and doing it well. However, if you are someone who wants to work your way up in the company, then you should tell them. Now, to work your way up in the company means that you want to get some kind of promotions like becoming a head of a department, a sales and marketing manager, or be a part of the management team, to be in the leadership of the company, and so on. So, remember, just be honest and tell the interviewer your intention, where you see yourself in 5 years from now. Now, let me give you an example of how I would answer this question. In 5 years from now, I see myself taking on more responsibilities and possibly leading a team. I want to continue growing and contributing to this company's success. So, you see, this is a great answer because it shows your ambition and a long-term interest in the company. The fifth question you might be asked in a job interview is, what is your greatest strength? Or, what are some of your greatest strengths? Again, you need to be honest here. You need to know yourself. For example, if your strength is solving problems, then you should say so. You should say, I am a really good problem solver. Or if your strength is that you are good at planning something, then you should say, I am really good at creating plans for big projects. If one of your strengths is that you are good with people and that you enjoy talking with people and encouraging them and motivating them, then you would want to say something like, one of my strengths is that I work well with others. One of my strengths is that I enjoy working on teams or in groups with other people. Or you could also say, one of my strengths is my attention to detail. I always make sure that my work is accurate and of high quality. I am also a good team player and I enjoy working with others. This answer highlights your specific strengths that are valuable in a workplace, and you also provide examples. Talking about strengths leads us to the next question, which is question number 6, where you will be asked, what is your greatest weakness? Or, what are some of your weaknesses? And again, here you need to be honest with the interviewer. You really need to simply tell the interviewer what some of your weaknesses are, especially as an employee or as a worker. So, you should say something like, I don't really work well with others. I work best on my own. Or you should say things like, I get bored easily by repetitive tasks. I like having some variety in my day. Here, if you notice in my answer, I said, I get bored easily by repetitive tasks. This is my weakness. However, I also mentioned my strength when I said, I like having some variety in my day. This is a good strategy to use because by mentioning your strength right after your weakness, it helps making your weakness into a strength. So, my advice to you is to always mention your strength right after your weakness. Or you could also say something like this. One weakness I have is that I can be a perfectionist. Sometimes I spend too much time on details. However, I am working on managing my time better and focusing on what's most important. Again, this is a great answer because it shows self-awareness. It means that you are well aware of your own weakness or problem and that you are willing to improve it. So remember, make your weakness into your strength. Make your negative into a positive. Make something bad into good. Tell the interviewer that although it is your weakness, but you are actually doing something about that weakness, that you are trying to improve it. The seventh question you might be asked in a job interview is somewhat similar to the previous question, which is, do you work better alone or in a team? If you say that you don't work well in a team, then it indicates to the interviewer that this is your weakness. Again, you just need to be honest. Just make your weakness into a strength. Now, if you are a type of person who works well in a team environment, then you could say something like this. I enjoy working in a team because I like collaborating with others and learning from them. However, I am also comfortable working alone and can stay motivated without supervision. So, you see, this is a good answer. It's an answer that the interviewer is looking for. This answer shows flexibility and your ability to adapt to different work environments. My advice is that if you are not a team player, or if you don't particularly enjoy working in a team environment, then I suggest you start now. In every job, there's always going to be some kind of teamwork. So, you need to be able to adapt to different work environment. Question number 8 that the interviewer might ask you during your job interview is, what is your biggest professional achievement? Here, what the interviewer wants to know is something that you did at your previous job that went really, really well. For this question, I don't think I can give you any specific examples. However, if you do get asked this question, what is your biggest professional achievement? Then my advice to you is to think about a time when you solved a really, really big problem at one of your previous jobs, where you finished a really big project and your boss or your manager was pleased with your work and everyone in the company was happy with your work. Remember, you should prepare your answer ahead of time just in case you do get asked this question. So, be prepared to talk about something that you have done in the past, which you are proud of. The 9th question you might be asked in a job interview is, have you ever had a big problem at work and how did you overcome it, or how did you resolve it? Here, the job interviewer wants to know what your problem-solving skills are like. Every job has its own situations where things don't go well, and people need to think on their feet. What does think on your feet mean? Well, when you think on your feet, means that you have the ability to think quickly and that you're able to solve the problems at hand quickly. Remember, make sure you go into the interview thinking about a problem you had at your previous job and what you did to make that problem go away. To show you what I mean, let me give you a real problem that I had faced at one of my past jobs when I was working as a server in a busy downtown restaurant in Toronto, Canada. So, what happened was that I mistakenly entered the wrong order for a large table of guests, and they were very upset at me. So, let's say the interviewer asks you this question. Have you ever had a big problem at work, and how did you overcome or resolve it? Using my restaurant scenario, you could say something like this. Yes, I have faced a significant problem at work before. I was working as a server in a busy restaurant, and one evening, I mistakenly entered the wrong order for a large table of guests. When their food arrived, they realized it was not what they had ordered and were very upset, especially because they had waited for a long time. To resolve this, I immediately apologized sincerely to the guests and assured them that I would fix the mistake as quickly as possible. I then informed the kitchen staff about the error and requested that the correct dishes be prioritized. I also spoke to my manager to explain the situation and see if we could offer a gesture of goodwill. While the guests waited for their correct orders, I brought complimentary appetizers to the table and offered them a discount on their meal. I kept checking in with them to ensure they were comfortable and updated them on the status of their food. When the correct orders finally arrived, I apologized again and made sure everything was to their satisfaction. Despite the initial frustration, the guests appreciated the way we handled the situation and left the restaurant satisfied. From this experience, I learned the importance of double-checking orders before submitting them and how crucial it is to remain calm and proactive in resolving issues quickly to maintain customer satisfaction. So, you see, this is a good answer to the question. Have you ever had a big problem at work, and how did you overcome it? This is a good answer because it is nicely structured, and it's what the interviewer wants to hear. This structured approach not only answers the question, but also showcases your ability to handle stressful situations, think on your feet, and work collaboratively to solve problems. Let me break down this answer into step by step so that you can understand this approach better. First, I acknowledge the problem. My answer starts by clearly stating the problem I encountered, getting the customer's order wrong, which shows awareness of my mistakes and their impact. Second, I describe the situation by explaining the context, for example, a busy restaurant, large table of guests. This answer helps the interviewer understand the pressure and the significance of the issue or the problem I had faced. Next, action taken. I explain what actions I took, detailing the steps taken to address the issue, for example, by apologizing, informing the kitchen, speaking to the manager, offering complimentary appetizers, and a discount. This demonstrates your problem-solving skills, customer service, and initiative. This is what the interviewer likes to hear, and that you can quickly think on your feet. After that, I state the outcome. I highlight the successful resolution. For example, guests appreciated my handling of the situation, and they left satisfied. This shows that your actions were effective and resulted in a positive outcome. Lastly, I mention lessons learned from my mistake. I mention what I had learned from the experience, the importance of double-checking orders and staying calm. This indicates that I reflect on my experiences and I use them to improve future performance. The 10th question that you might be asked in a job interview is, do you have any questions for us? This is a great time to ask your interviewer about how many hours per week you would need to work. It's also a good time to ask, what does a typical day look like if you were to be hired for that job? Remember, earlier in this episode, I said that you need to do some research about the company before your interview, right? Well, you want to know a little bit about the company so that you can ask intelligent questions. So when the interviewer asks, do you have any questions for us? You could say something like this, yes, I would like to know more about the team I will be working with and what a typical day looks like in this position. So you see, this answer shows that you are interested in the role and that you want to understand how you can fit into the team. Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Time for English podcast. I hope these tips and common interview questions help you feel more prepared for your next job interview. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to our channel, like this podcast, and share it with your friends. We'd love to hear from you. What do you think about preparing for a job interview in English? Have you ever had an English job interview before? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. And if you have any topics related to English learning that you want us to talk about, let us know in the comments. We'll make sure to cover them in future episodes. Thanks again for tuning in. Keep practicing your English, and I'll see you again in the next episode.